I think it's the most influential animated movie since Spider-Verse. It may be more influential than Spider-Verse because I think it gives a kind of almost a blueprint for how somebody can approach a new animated franchise. And hello and welcome to another episode of the Kids Media Club podcast. I'm Andy Williams, and we've got we'll return to an old familiar format. And this one, it's the hosts are hanging out.
We haven't chatted in ages.
It's been too long. It feels like we've been through we're halfway through summer. We're at the end of conference season. We've all had, I've had a holiday. You've had a holiday, Emily. About you, Andy, are you having a holiday?
No, I haven't had a holiday yet. I think we're going to do something spontaneous, which means I haven't planned anything and we're just going to have to do a lastminute.com trip.
Well,
it's also been kind of conference season as well, right? So you guys have you headed to a few things recently, Joe?
I did. I've been to MadFest. First time at MadFest, actually, which was all hosted around Brick Lane kind of area, very where South by Southwest had been a few weeks before. Really cool, achingly hip, but you know what? A really great vibe. Just happened to coincide with that hot spell too. So lots of marquees and DJs outside. It was very, very cool. And then off to CMC in Sheffield, which, still quite warm. Fewer DJs outside. Different vibe, shall we say.
And how does it work with MAD in terms of the range of topics and sessions that they've got there?
Well, I think that for me is something that I would point out at CMC, because I would also say I went to SEG 3 earlier in the summer, perhaps 6-8 weeks ago now. SEG 3 being sports, entertainment, gaming, the SEG of SEG 3. But what a great curated conference to bring together people from those three different sectors and the interesting conversations that happen at those intersections. So very similar to MadFest, which is obviously based around the advertising industry, but I happened to be there on the third day on the Mad Sports stage, interviewing a creator, Manny, who is the younger brother of one of the sidemen, big YouTube creator, got 2.2 million followers. And it was just, again, it was that kind of big mishmash, intersections of creators, of sports, of advertising, that I think really mirrored what SEG 3 was, in that we talk about media, and we came up in an era where media was very siloed, but that's not the reality of it these days, particularly not when we think about our audience who are across a myriad of platforms. Therefore, it feels like maybe the conferences need to start mirroring that, and perhaps that would be my one suggestion for CMC, is much more of those intersections, because that's where the interesting conversations can be had. How about you, Andy? Because you were there. We saw each other one day there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I completely hear that contrast. And I went to MAD a couple of years back when it was at Tobacco Keys near Wapping.
Yes.
And it had a very carnival festival vibe to it, and an interesting mix of topics, some going really into the science of marketing and drilling down into stuff like audio marketing and a lot of research and data to support that. And it had a very kind of curious approach to just looking into different topics and lifting the rock up and kind of seeing what was going on. And I wonder whether that creator thing, sometimes I feel within the kids media world that there's quite a complicated relationship with kids media and social media for a number of reasons. So it doesn't really feel like that big tent that would necessarily invite in a lot of creators, because we have a kind of mixed feeling about that world. But sometimes I worry that it makes kids media less relevant because of it.
Do we isolate ourselves, do you think?
Yes.
Yeah, I think a bit.
Because this is something that I do a lot of, right? So I through my writing, like I write for a few different websites. I write my own newsletter. Obviously, it's all focused on kids, but like I have found space by standing up amongst people who are all going Squid Game, sports, and you go, and kids, and like throwing it into the mix so that we're all having a conversation about the same things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's been, that's something I kind of challenge myself to do, and I feel like there is nearly white space to do, because people aren't necessarily, when they're thinking about kids, they just go, oh, Bluey this, and it's like no, there's like tons of other stuff that's going on, and if you understand it, there's so much coming up.
Yeah, I think it's really important to remember kids media doesn't exist in a vacuum.
No.
If you would observe your kids, my kids, other people's kids, they're consuming across different spaces, different times of day. Yes, they might be watching Wednesday or Squid Game because older sister or brother is watching it. That doesn't mean it's made for them, but it's part of their media diet. They're all over Roblox. They might be at one time playing Grow a Garden, and the next thing they're looking at K-pop Demon Hunters on Netflix's Roblox experience, which we'll come to because we need to talk about K-pop Demon Hunters. But so, to try and kind of keep it in this nice, neat little box and look at it in a certain way through a certain lens feels like it's, losing its relevance. Yeah.
Yes. Less productive.
I do think that would be my takeaway. Much as I have loved attending CMC over the years, I feel like maybe those intersections, maybe lacking those intersections that I've seen, particularly at Seg3 and MadFest in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah. But anyway, and we need to talk about something that was actually breaking news just as we were coming on. Well, it broke yesterday about Sky Kids ending originals commissioning, which of course was a big topic at CMC. And so to come out of the back of that last week and have that unfortunate news hit in the last 24 hours is a big shame. Do you have any more intel on it, either of you?
I've seen some of the responses to it. It's super depressing. Sky Kids have been such a force for commissioning in the last 4 or 5 years, I would say. 5, 6 years. Yeah. Just like, hey, we're going to do this. Hey, we're going to do this. Real big volumes. I mean, you gotta take your hat off to the team to say, make the hay, the sun's shining, get that hay in there.
Absolutely.
And they do find themselves in a position now where they have like quite a depth of original content that's already there. But I don't know. I worry it's just doing it's going to move into then the Netflix model, right? It reminds me kind of that Netflix. Sorry, do I bring everything back to Netflix? You guys need to check me. But made hay, commissioned a load of original stuff, and then coming back to this conclusion of, you know what, just acquiring big stuff that's already big, renting audience.
Yeah. The thought process, I must admit, and there's still life in what they have commissioned. They're all still relatively young in terms of their life cycle.
The team.
The IP that they've commissioned. We had
Lucy Murphy. You're relatively young. It's okay.
I mean,
there's life, there's juice in what they've already commissioned.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see why they would think, okay, it's time we can pull back and we can adopt that Netflix approach. But it's a shame because we had Julian Bashford on with Boo Snoo, didn't we?
Yes.
And that was something that really needed to be made, and I can't imagine that it would have been made without Sky Kids commissioning it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think they've made some really kind of bold bets. They went for a kind of a linear approach in terms of having a linear kids channel at a time when a lot of people were moving away from that. And that was a very sort of bold decision. And I think in terms of the content that they've commissioned, it's had a really kind of distinctive tone of voice. And there needs to be space for a commercial kids channel. It can't just all be the BBC.
Agree. Yeah, one wonders what's going to happen because some of the team, they're ex-BBC. Ian Franz went there from the Bean. Obviously, really experienced team. So it remains to be seen what happens there. But so who does it mean is left commissioning? It really is only the BBC, isn't it?
Yeah,
and it's mad at a time when two of the biggest things in the broader media right now are kids IP. So Absolutely. Recently there was the Nielsen H1 2025 data dropped, and Bluey leading the charge. And concurrently you have K-pop Demon Hunters going viral on Netflix. Yep. Alongside Miss Rachel having a big footprint there too. So it's like we still got the hits, you guys. We still got the hits, and when they hit hard.
Yep. Isn't it fascinating how we've got these 3 hits? It hits in different ways, but hits nonetheless. And Yet it still seems like the rest of the kids' media business is pushing against, it's pushing against the Netflix or whatever, who don't seem to take it seriously or don't understand it enough to want to figure it out. And it seems like a real shame. It's all been de-risked, isn't it? We spoke about this once before with Netflix approach to YouTube first kids IP. It's almost like we don't trust our own ability to come up with originals now. So we're going to let you all do it. We'll let you make the mistakes. We'll let you go and prove yourselves and let you go and build a head of steam. And then we're ready to engage. It feels like, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely is a shift to, rather than proof of concept, proof of audience before a broadcaster or a studio or a platform makes a big bet on a project, which is a shame. Perhaps that's going to open up the space, though, for somebody to have more of a kind of dedicated space for kids content. I mean, it goes back to when having Greg on the show with Anna Marchit. Maybe we need the new Nickelodeon or the new Cartoon Network to be created within this new media space and landscape.
Yeah.
It's just worrying how to find the business model, Andy, right? That's it, right? It's like, if YouTube isn't bringing in the cash and franchise money is tricky, like how do you find a way forward?
Yeah.
But listen, you've got, like, as I said, back to Kpop, popping off huge on Netflix.
Do we know what the budget for that was? Sorry to jump in.
We don't. My impression is that you could, Emily, you were comparing it to Leo.
Yeah.
And I think on LinkedIn, I asked a question about, it would be interesting to see what the different budgets were. I've got a pretty strong hunch that Leo would have been at least twice as much, maybe more than K-pop Demon Hunters, maybe twice as much.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was really interesting because the animation style in K-pop Demon Hunters, I thought was really neat. I mean, it had that anime sensibility, but it had shades of Mitchell's versus the Machines. I was watching with you guys as I was watching it. The music is brilliant. I'm like immediately downloading the soundtrack. I really enjoyed it. I think they nailed it. So I'd love to know how much the budget was. Obviously, it didn't get a theatrical, did it?
It did not get a theatrical. I think there's clearly going to be a sequel. I wonder whether they may give the sequel a theatrical. I mean, my take on it was that I think it's the most influential animated movie since Spider-Verse, and I think it may be more influential than Spider-Verse because I think it gives a kind of almost a blueprint for how somebody can approach a new animated franchise. It's very much created for a kind of post-TikTok generation. It moves super fast. This is a weird thing for it to remind me of, but I was reminded of High School Musical because I felt like High School Musical was an excellent example of Disney thinking, how do we remake the ingredients of a classic Disney movie, which is a musical with a love story? How do we remake that for the era that High School Musical appeared in? And they kind of recreated something that felt very contemporary, had incredible music on it, but also you could see how it kind of grew out of that Disney.
Yeah, it had the DNA.
And I feel like this has kind of found a way to create something that, again, is an animated musical. I mean, Disney should be taking notes from this big time. And it's a really successful, we talk about transmedia a lot, and it's a really successful version of a kind of a transmedia storytelling because it's top of the Netflix charts at the same time that it's number one on the Billboard charts globally.
Yeah.
Which is madness.
Talking about the budget, again, they're going to be making a ton off that music. It wouldn't surprise me if maybe that is the main revenue line that they make the money on. And I was watching it, and as the credits were rolling, it cuts to the actual singers that are singing the parts in the credits, which I thought was brilliant. It was a really good way to humanize it. When we're talking about AI bands popping up on Spotify, getting millions of streams, for them to cut to the actual artists performing, I thought, again, was just a real genius move.
Absolutely. For anyone that hasn't watched it, everyone will probably know what the story is about, but it's basically K-pop bands fighting it out. But one of the bands are a group of demon hunters as their side hustle, and the other band is a group of demons. And so they're competing for the hearts and souls of all of the teenage fans on
The
social media.
literal souls, like the demons
literal
look up their
souls.
souls, not just
Exactly.
figurative souls.
Yeah, the literal and metaphorical souls. And I think that also gives a way for this generation to really, they can have their biases in terms of their favorite members of each of the bands. You have that. You can kind of be for one band rather than another. It gives loads of opportunities for the audience to kind of participate in the story. So I think it's very smart storytelling.
But also the music wasn't dumbed down, right? Like, and I approached this. There was a number. Disney is guilty in the back years of a number of projects that tried to do this. I have Star Darlings trauma and I have Marvel Rising trauma, where two things you probably have never heard of, which attempted to update or attempted to launch a franchise for predominantly girls of a certain age. And whether the music of those was whatever, or the content orders and all that kind of stuff was just bitty. Whereas the music was heavily invested in. It wasn't dumbed down. Absolutely. I think that's so important when it comes to kids content. It's like people spend too long thinking about how do I make this for a 7-year-old, and they don't just think how do I make it good. You know what I mean? And I think, again, back to Bluey, this podcast has gone 0 podcasts that mentioning Bluey. We haven't even gone 10 minutes without mentioning Bluey this time. But, it's like, it's a good show, and it's a good show for everybody. It's not a good show. It's, you know what I mean? It has that, it's just a good show. It's not a good show for 5-year-olds, right? Like, and I think that's the music in K-pop. It's good music. It's just good music for everyone. And it wasn't, it's properly invested in, they had the, established Korean singers come in and do it. It wasn't just, farmed off to secondhand voice talent. The production of it was huge. And then also, like, when we're talking about the stakes in it, like demons versus demon hunters, but like they got the tone so right.
Yeah.
It felt like the stakes were high. The drama was there. The peril was there. More easily done in a kind of graphic way through animation than it is done, say, in like, Descendants, the Descendants series, when you're doing things in live action and you're trying to keep it, 12 and under, it could just get a bit hammy, whereas in animation, you're able to kind of push it a bit because you can carve off some of the scary edges with some, with comedy that doesn't feel as hammy. So I think they got it so right.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because, like, based on the numbers, I'm not sure how much this film was marketed, right? We look at the numbers that come in week one. When we think of Leo week one and Adam Sandler at the helm of that, and, Adam Sandler, shoot businessman, heard on the grapevine, that like he'll want the marketing. He gets that the marketing budget has to be there for stuff, not just the distribution. And so Leo had a huge first week. It definitely had a Thanksgiving Day parade float, which is a major investment. Performance for K-pop was low that first week compared to Leo. And then it's popped high and stayed high, which is something I haven't seen in data for an animated movie since Encanto, where that consistency starts coming in.
And it's that combination of music and animation in.
I was just going to say, also good songs.
And just good songs, not good songs for kids, just good songs.
No, just good songs.
Catchy songs. Yeah.
I think maybe you've hit upon something there in terms of leveraging that virality as marketing rather than the intentional marketing when you wheel out your Adam Sandler, which are both valid playbooks.
I'm not sure this was leverage. I don't think it was marketing leverage for virality. I think it was just genuine word of mouth. You saw it.
Totally.
I saw it with the Netflix movie, and next animated movie was Nimona. Nimona, which came in lower and word of mouth seemed to carry it. Now, Nimona, since the performance has really not been there, from any of the data I've seen, it hasn't maintained a place in the conversation or with audiences. K-pop being obviously on a far higher trajectory than Nimona, and being a musical, and having, so the music is popping off. Joe, we were talking about this last night, and I was like, Redfern, go check out the Roblox footprint.
I'm already on it. Yeah, so it's there is an area within Netflix's Next World space on Roblox that's been given over to Kpop Demon Hunters.
I would say it's pretty major on Netflix's Next World in Roblox. It's part of the title. They've
taken over. Yes,
I mean they haven't done it. They've done as much as they can, I'd say, in what they had, and then also the soundtrack is available there. Is available. It's part of the experience there too.
And is that prominence? Has that been in response to the sudden success, or has that been from the very start?
Not sure.
No, I think that will have been planned. That will have been planned because they had, when Netflix took One Piece, they did a big push on Next World because anime, K-pop, so huge on Roblox, it would have been crazy not to go big on it for Netflix in Next World. The obvious bellwether as to whether it started popping is when fan developers start spinning up unofficial experiences and fan-made experiences. And they've been notable in the last week popping up. Now, you'll get some ones that are largely AI generated. It's like throwing spaghetti at a wall. They might only ever get a few concurrents in. But there is one already that's tracking, which I shared with you both last night, that had a few thousand concurrents in. I think it's interesting, Emily. We should perhaps track your data on Netflix and we'll look at how many experiences, but particularly the popular ones on Roblox, because I think we'll see them follow a similar trajectory, because I think one largely supports the other, which we saw with Squid Game as well on Netflix. Squid Game went into Next World, but also spawned 300-400 fan-made experiences that were allowed to run because it was pushing the viewing.
Yeah, and Squid Games is a great comparison because it's, I think with K-pop Demon Hunters there, it feels very much like its success is fan-driven rather. So it's a real grassroots success, I think. I think fans took it to their hearts, and that's why I think it will have legs as well. I think it's a film that you can see people rewatching over and over again. And I think I'd want to give a kind of just a shout out to the directors and the writers of it, because I think it's the most successful kind of Western animation that I've seen that mixes that unique kind of anime quality of comedy 1 minute, romance the next, and action the next, in a way that kind of pivots from one to the other, sometimes in real kind of, you know, extreme kind of pivots into one mood and tone. And I think it does that brilliantly. And it's one of the reasons that it just feels like it just moves. It doesn't, you're not bored for a second.
No, I thought it was just, it was so much fun. And I do struggle to sit down and stay still and watch a movie for 90 minutes, but I was completely gripped. I loved the music straight away. I was chuckling away at the jokes about the abs and their eyes are popping popcorn. And then there was the song about the ramen, don't spill the ramen. I mean, it was just funny and action packed. Outfits were great. I really want purple hair now. Yeah. It was just good.
Yeah, and the characters are lovely as well. I was enjoying. Yeah. Again,
that's a feature of anime and manga storytelling, isn't it? Those kind of characters that are flawed and a bit kooky, and I just think it's a great kind of acknowledgement of what teenage life is like, and very often I think that is kind of smoothed over, to your point earlier, in a lot of what has become the kind of established way of telling stories.
Yeah. And having the bad boy be a literal demon as well, I think so. A nice touch as well.
We all watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Andy. That's something new.
Who doesn't love a bad boy?
But speaking of the Roblox licensing, Joe, there was interesting news coming from Roblox this week as well about setting up a kind of creator licensing marketplace, which sounded fascinating.
Well, I mean, you'll remember if you listen to the podcast that we've spoken about it before about a company called Spaceport that about 12 months ago set up a business doing this, but in they were a third party company that were facilitating this into Roblox, notably with Toei Animation, and they did it with Toei's movie Hypergalactic. Now it seems that Roblox have incorporated that into the tool set, this ability to put your IP on Roblox and solicit proposals from developers who want to license that IP. So it was rumoured for the back end of the year. It's gone out now halfway through the year with a very curated list of IP.
Yeah.
There will be more added towards the end of the year. Obviously, with my sport lens, be interesting to see whether any big sports leagues or tournaments go on there. Currently, there is a couple of Lionsgate IP on there.
Yeah.
Saw is on there. Well, horror, big genre on Roblox. No surprise that Saw is on there. The Twilight Saga, also on there. I imagine a lot of developers are going to be interested in putting proposals in to work with those IP. So really interesting. Steve DiPianco, who we've had on in the past as well, did a bit of a video upload on it yesterday, which I would recommend people to watch, just taking you through. You basically go in, you select your IP, you choose what you want to do with it, build a branded experience. It's pretty intuitive. So I think that's really interesting. Obviously, coming from the world that we come from, where letting your IP being used on a predominantly UGC platform can come with, so, kind of issues around copyright and licensing. So this is attempting to put some structure around it and maybe give that assurance to the bigger IP owners that actually you can do it in a formal way now and it's tracked and you're very much in control. So it'd be interesting to see what kind of experiences come up.
It's hopeful. When I heard it announced, it kind of felt like a no-brainer. I think it's like it's a first step, and then you kind of go, well, does that mean? It's like, well, if I'm putting Squid Game, because I think Netflix have put Squid Game.
Yes, Squid Game
through the licensing platform. Does that mean you got to enforce on all the other ones that are unlicensed?
Well, that's what came into my mind too, because if you formally put Squid Game on there, that does imply that actually the 300-400 unofficial Squid Game experiences on there that are, to date, as we said, have been allowed to exist. How are they going to deal with them?
Yeah.
Do they approach them and say, look, nominal license fee, or do you go and actually have a look at the kinds of experiences that are there and you might cherry pick some for?
The licensed ones are surfaced more in terms of discovery.
Yeah, I imagine all of that has been built into that back end, because Roblox obviously want to be seen as helping discovery for those that are officially there on the platform, as opposed to unofficially or fan-made. It's I think it's fascinating. Will it feel? Is this another step towards, the corporates are here again? This is, Roblox being 18, 19 years old, always been fan-driven. And now this, makes it slightly more corporate.
Do you think it's an example of how corporates, do you think it's almost a bit of a playbook on how corporates might engage with that fan culture going forward, though?
You'd hope so. I mean, it's my view that you would, again, we're talking creators here ostensibly. It's a creator platform. So really that does mean that as Lionsgate or as Netflix with Squid Game, you need to approach it with a certain open mind. You don't want to go in and be too restrictive or dictatorial with how your IP is then articulated on a platform that, after all, the developers know infinitely better than you do.
Yeah,
Netflix
absolutely.
HQ.
Yeah.
So one would hope the experiences that come out of it for Saw or for Twilight will be really creative. They'll feel platform native. And, at the end of the day, Lionsgate will have right of veto over any proposals and approvals. So it's there where I hope they just let them do what they do best, these developers, and don't kind of go, no, that's not on brand, or that doesn't fit my old kind of way of managing this IP. Well, we will see.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very different mindset, isn't it, for a lot of those studios to almost give away that freedom to allow people to play in the sandbox with the stuff you've created.
When you think about back to the YouTube days where it was like, you're pirated, right? Like, you're pirating, and it's like, I think the conversation has definitely evolved amongst when fandom enters piracy. And then you've got TikTok, obviously, where like IP owners are publishing content that is innately able to be duetted, lifted, and there's that kind of thing there. So there is that ability to play a little bit. So long as, like you say, Joe, that this isn't used as a tool to constrict the landscape, it's used for a tool to enable the landscape. I think it's got a lot of it sounds very hopeful to me, and I have to go to Roblox a little bit, because there's certain things it's hard, right? Like they will always be criticized for, platforms will always be criticized for not doing everything right, and the way they approach it not being perfect. And YouTube would obviously be sitting in the corner going, no, whatever I do, you always do the wrong thing. But they do seem to try to put forward-facing initiatives in place with meaning.
Oh, and they do, yeah. And I really like Roblox as a corporation for that, because they never seem to rest on their laurels. They're always thinking, right, what's the next?
Or shy away from things, being like,
No.
la 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 la, license, not happening. Do you know what I mean?
No, they're definitely on the front foot, and they're always looking at those tool sets, either for developers or for IP owners and brand owners to activate on there and make it easy and make it brand safe, but also make it easy, given that a lot of these brand owners really are still getting their head around Roblox as a platform. But what's interesting for me and exciting is you look at Twilight Saga. Twilight Saga back in the day, it was just, it really did capture that. Yeah, it was huge. It captured that moment and that zeitgeist. I'm really fascinated to see what the next generation does with those characters that don't have that memory that we have, or that relationship with the IP. Because I think we'll see some really interesting things come out of it. So that, for me, inevitably there could be just a load of Twilight obbies, but I suspect there'll be some really creative, really interesting experiences that come out of it that nobody that at Lionsgate would have gone, wow, we wouldn't have called, we're calling that one. I think it'll surprise quite a few.
It's also like, for that particular IP is a perfect idea, because as far as I know, there's no like Twilight series on order. That, like,
no,
the books are the films are still relevant. They're still big. They still have traction. The books, I guess, so too. So it's like, y'all go play. Y'all go play and probably tell us a few things about what you like and what you don't, because suddenly we built this game around this particular character or this particular behavior, this particular fight or whatever, and okay, we get that you like that. Like, what a smart thing to do for. I don't want to say it's a franchise. It's not a dormant franchise, but it's a franchise at rest. So it makes a lot of sense.
And imagine if it wakes it up from its rest. Something goes so big on Roblox,
like a vampire. Sorry.
It's but it does spawn a new series commission or some kind of spin-off. That would be brilliant, and would very much prove my hypothesis that Roblox our hypothesis. I think Roblox really is that petri dish for new IP or evolutions of old ones at rest. I think that's fascinating. So we'll definitely be following that one.
Petri dish, though, really? And more like
I think a better
farm, and you're growing animals. No, we're going to go for petri dish. Okay.
I was going to say fertilizer bag, but I don't think that's any better. I'm thinking grow a garden, you see. Anyway, let's talk Miss Rachel, because again, if we mention Bluey, we almost have to mention Miss Rachel.
Yeah.
We'll have to have one of those bingo cards that listeners can download and then follow along as they're listening.
Miss Rachel. So Netflix earnings is tonight. Q2 2025 earnings. This will be the second earnings where they're not announcing subscribers. That consistent subscriber uplift. So yes, Miss Rachel, I have been tracking as an IP that has done really, really well since it's launched on there. It launched at the end of January, and I wrote about this in my newsletter, The Kids Streamers.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
It probably, when we look, when I run the Netflix Kids Content Performance Report, when we look at overall impact of series, when you add all the seasons up, it'll probably be top 10, not necessarily top 5, because it's only one season. But yeah, really, really strong start for Miss Rachel there. I've also seen other data that validates this from a US perspective too. So that was the one thing that I had said about Miss Rachel. We hadn't seen her hit in Nielsen, but it's fundamentally because it's an acquired IP, and the acquired list in Nielsen is so competitive because it's chock full of things, of big established sitcoms and procedurals and and Bluey and that kind of thing. So it's a much harder list to get yourself up on, rather than like the originals list or the movie list. So Miss Rachel is going to be big. I would be very surprised if the discussion at earnings tonight is that Miss Rachel isn't like very much a shining light when it comes to kids, alongside Kpop Demon Hunters, which
Yeah.
I'm holding my breath that they'll announce that it's the biggest animated feature. It was tracking just like a hair's breadth behind Leo when we look at the weekly data that we get. But because Leo had launched in the Tuesday of that week, not the Friday, Leo kind of was at an unfair disadvantage. So I think it'd be fun if it was just a straightforward yes, it's the biggest and go forth.
Amazing.
Back to Miss Rachel.
Yeah.
What content is on Netflix versus her YouTube channel for those uninitiated like me? Is it a curated selection?
It strikes me as a curated selection from her YouTube channel. I'm not familiar with every single YouTube video she's ever posted to say that, which is one of the issues when you're trying to pull together what the footprint is. But yeah, it's a curated selection from her YouTube channel. I think there's only like 4 episodes of it.
Yeah, but they're not quite long, right?
Two of them are quite long. 2 of them are shorter. So I think 2 are like 56. One's like 36. So they're not all just like it's not 4 hours of content. Yeah, I mean it's like she's hit trending top 10s and stuff like that over in markets over the period that she's been on there, and she has season 2 coming this summer as far as we know, the specificity of that. So I think it's a great place for her to be. I think one of the key things that premium streaming platforms offer franchises that are coming from YouTube is that safety piece for franchises. Netflix is a much safer place to plonk your kid than YouTube is. But equally, like, I think the question I would be asking is, for these YouTube IP that are really getting big traction, and Miss Rachel is a sensation, I would say. Like, I just hope I hope the numbers are stacking up for Netflix getting to rent her audience, right? Because that's essentially what's happening, right? They're renting the Miss Rachel audience. The Miss Rachel audience is established. Obviously, there's benefit to her as a brand being on a safer platform, but like something I would love to see, and something I'm predicting that could be coming up more in future deals is like Miss Rachel doing an exclusive deal with Netflix is something that's highly valued from a revenue point of view. I have no ideas of what the financials are behind the deal or anything like that, but it's just something that I was thinking about recently where YouTube IP have very much been like, I need to get on streaming and then I'm legit. Whereas I think there might be a sea change on that to be like, if you want to rent my audience, you can pay for it.
Yeah.
When IP is big enough, I think that's something that's interesting and should be really considered because...
And when you say exclusive, do you mean her content is exclusively on Netflix?
Yes.
Her YouTube content, or do you mean bespoke content that's made and co-produced?
Either or. Because we're thinking like Cocomelon is going to go to Disney Plus next year.
But not Cocomelon Lane.
But not Cocomelon Lane. So that's not a non-exclusive deal on the IP, whereas... If Miss Rachel stays at Netflix, I think basically keeping her happy to not then do a deal with Disney where her IP would sit very, very comfortably, I think is something that should be considered in a major way. Maybe it already is. I don't know. This is all speculation.
Yeah. That's a really interesting way of looking at it. It's almost like saying that Miss Rachel is more like a recording artist in some ways, in as much as Taylor Swift decides that she's going to do a deal with one broadcaster. It doesn't mean she's exclusive to that broadcaster. And she can kind of pick and choose really where she goes to some extent. That's interesting. And do you think Miss Rachel has defined that playbook in terms of proof of audience, and then you can use that to leverage deals with Netflix and more established broadcasters?
I think she has the critical mass to be able to hold that leverage, Yeah. She's the newest. It's like we think of preschool IP that have come up in the last 6 years, 7 years. It was Cocomelon, then it was Bluey. Actually, maybe Gabby was pre-Bluey in terms of when it popped. Bluey and Miss Rachel, right, is the newest thing in the last 3-4 years. So she's big. So I think being able to call it and trying to hold on, trying to keep that sense of urgency and that sense of like desperation is maybe the wrong word, but if I get on streaming I'm legit, or if I get on streaming I'm safe, and like you're doing me a favor by putting me on streaming. It's like, hang on a second, take a big deep breath, look at the audience you have on YouTube, look what you're growing. She had the Spin Master deal and stuff before she was ever on Netflix. Like at that stage she is there, she's making it, and I would and this is all speculation, perhaps she has been very specific about the value she's driven from that deal, but staying exclusive to Netflix is a real value to them, I think, going forward.
Great.
And not fragmenting it up. But Yeah, she's gonna be big, or like she's gonna be big. There's no way she, even like we've modeled it, but we even from the proof and the data that we've seen, she's definitely going to be big. It's just a question of how big. But I think it's going to be big.
So
Crazy.
do you think that Netflix and Miss Rachel will be making exclusive content? Do you think that, like Cocomelon Lane, do you think there'll be something?
I'm super interested to see how it all plays out also with Sesame Street in the mix, because Miss Rachel and Sesame Street go very nicely together. Plus, they are playing very nicely together. They continue to collaborate and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a case of get Miss Rachel in, get the standard content in, get that settled, get Sesame Street in, get those two ebbing and flowing, and then I think it's very exciting what they could do with that strategy. I think it's awesome, high quality, awesome, lovely content that kids connect with. You know, I think looking at where that can build is a very, very interesting place. And one of the more curated things that Netflix have done in a while. You know, I think that the ebb and flow of those two IP and being the exclusive home for those in the US, it puts them in a very interesting position as to what magic they can make happen.
Absolutely. I think those two brands allow them to build a tone of voice and a position on kids' content that they haven't really had before. You can almost have other brands and programs orbit around these.
It's a flavor,
brands.
right? It's a real flavor.
Yeah.
And it tastes nice.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call. I would definitely be, I mean, obviously I don't have preschoolers anymore, but the thought of Miss Rachel and Sesame collaborating, I think, is really exciting.
Yeah, for all of the right reasons.
Absolutely.
Yeah, completely.
Cool. Okay. Well, listen, you guys, this episode's going to come out.
Good to hang out.
You have to imagine me at my desk, just at Netflix earnings tomorrow night, like, that'll be nice.
Are you going to get any sleep?
I will eventually. Goddamn West Coast timelines. What are you going to do?
Well, we look forward to reading it.
Cool.
Great.
All right. You got to do the sign off, Andy.
I'll do a quick sign off. Great. I hope everyone's enjoyed that host hangout. And if you disagree with any of our hot takes, then put them in the comments or reach out to us on LinkedIn. We can carry the conversation over there. Please like and subscribe on all of the various platforms you can find us on, and we will see you next week.